おやおやふろふろふれる頭ふろふろふわふわに飛び出すよふよふよふわふわふわふれる頭ふわふわふわふわ飛び出すよふわりふわりふわわふわふわふわわふわわふわふわふわふわ頭がふえるふえ頭ふえふえるふよふよよふえるふえふえるえるえるふえるふわふわふわりふわ頭
You too can become a hero.
Can you hear me now? Is this working? Is this on? I'm having some mic difficulties. Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Where are you at, Minnie?
Arise from the ashes.
The ashes of the fire.
My truest form. Tiny.
Your true form is tiny. Can we get you to be a little bit bigger?
No.
There we go.
Fine. I'll be a little bigger.
I was rudely interrupted by my own machinery here. But did want to say thank you to everybody that's come today. Sam, we got Felix, Ghost, Jim, Ludo, and I'm sure more people will pour in here. Also, you, Manser, thank you for joining me on the end today.
You too can become a hero.
Silver! Don't start already. Thank you for gifting a sub. Thank you for subbing, and thank you guys for the subs in the beginning, too. Ludo and Manser, you guys are amazing. Thank you for the nut flare.
Hey.
Welcome to the stream.
Yeah.
Good to see you, buddy. But yeah, we have an exciting end, an exciting closing to our book one here, and a lot of good foreshadowing, although the chapters were rather short this time around, right?
Yeah, we actually had under 100 pages, so that was pretty cool.
For once.
Yes!
We have been going at a good breakneck speed here, barreling through this book, and I won't have it any other way. I think we stopped in a lot of great places. God damn it, Felix. With the prime sub, we have a child. We have a child that's 1 month old, sir. Who's gonna take care of this baby?
Well, I'd say you have to work that out. That or you split the baby in half? 50-50?
I think we'll go for the more traditional method, Manser, but thank you for the suggestion.
Yeah, just bisect it. It'll be fine.
No, thank you.
You get some baby back ribs.
Oh my god. Manser. You're unhinged today. But I'm excited for this. I know, like, everybody that's reading along with us is going to be excited, and it's going to leave you wanting more after we get through what we do today. It is crazy. Crazy. Wasn't that a Bible story? I think it was, right? Splitting the baby in two?
Yes.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
You split the baby. 50-50. Even Steven.
You too can become a hero.
Silver is on a rampage. Thank you for gifting a sub to Flare, Silver. You are always appreciated. And it's good to see you back around the streams. I know you took a little break from it all to get writing your own book, and you actually kind of lit a fire under my ass to start writing mine. So we are going to be taking a 2-week break. Just wanted to mention this before we get into everything. Thank you for the nut, Ludo. 2-week break after we get through this session today. And then we will pick up with A Wise Man's Fear, which is book 2. And you're writing now. I am the best or worst distraction. We'll say that. 3 days until D&D. Another announcement. Hope's Fall, our campaign ran by Felix, goes on every Sunday when we stick to the schedule. We did have 2 large breaks, but we are getting back in the swing of things, and the campaign is getting pretty spicy. We did leave off with an undead siren that was assailing our group, cursed our group, and turned out to be the captain's undead daughter that came back from a curse. So we got to find out what the hell happened there. There was a red light in the sky, and everything went to shit. So we'll see where our campaign ends up, but this is a big story drop, and you definitely don't want to miss it this Sunday.
No.
And nuts. You want a nut on Sunday. Perfect time to get the spear back? Yeah, we could write up that contract, Ghost, for sure. Get at me.
Alright.
To go with the siren. A nut to go with the siren. A few nuts to go with the siren.
I mean, no, I shouldn't say that joke.
What are you gonna say?
Gotta make the ocean salty somehow.
Man, sir. You're
You too
progressively
can become a
spicy
hero.
as we go on with these. Ghost, thank Silver for your gifted sub. You have gifted 33 subs already in my channel? Gosh damn, you are a hero. Thank you. Thank you for your gifts. Red light flashing to go with the siren. Oh yeah, it's the red light district. Wink wink. There we go.
Yes, but we will be taking a 2-week break, and then after we'll be coming back, and it will be announced. I know it'll be on my Discord, it'll be on all of Rune's socials and everything, and we're gonna make sure that hopefully get even more people involved. Book 2 goes places, and we're gonna have to have some awkward conversations.
The other note is that if you did miss any of our previous broadcasts, they will be up on my channel on YouTube. I will be adding that link shortly once I upload all of the episodes, so you could just go through one by one and knock them all out if you want to binge watch it. Otherwise,
You have to write a book report. It's great.
yeah, if anybody knows anybody that has to write a book report, easy access right there. Free A. It's all free real estate. FBI open up. Book 2 is a beast of a novel. Yeah, the breadcrumbs are all this novel. Like, and that is saying a lot, because a good bit does happen in this novel, but
At the same time, like, this whole book is a prologue.
yeah.
Like, literally.
This is like, it's setting up the dominoes. That's what this book was. And it's all gonna fall. Or
Yeah.
we hope that all of them won't.
I don't know. Do we want to cover the novella The Slow Regard of Silence things after A Wise Man's Fear?
I think that would be a good follow-up.
Yeah.
Maybe we should gauge interest, but like I haven't read that yet, and I would like to.
Oh, I know what series I'm going to subject you to after this.
Is it Tad?
Absolutely, Tad Williams, Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. Literally my favorite fantasy series of all time.
And I was gonna propose this too. We could always like do a break and do off and on, but we'll talk more about it, I guess, in the upcoming days.
And speaking of D&D, is Minnie ready for Sunday? Yes, I'm ready for our game. I'm desperately ready to get back at that.
You guys have a crazy campaign too. Every now and then I get to look at the footnotes from it, and they're absolutely insane. You guys have a crazy
oh, you mean
group
my
of
mini
players.
novels and clip notes?
Yeah, I get to look at all of those. And for somebody who harps on me for note taking, looking at yours, excuse me. The Death Books or the Watch Books by Pratchett.
Ooh,
I haven't
that'd
read
be
these
fun.
either. Maybe we could do like a community read suggestion too. Things to come in the
Yeah,
future.
we'll work on it.
Yeah, we'll work on it. Hey, I'm walking
We'll
here.
work on We're walking here. Now let's get to the book because we got a giant lizard that's a sweet eater.
Oh yeah, we do. All right. Let me just scroll up through my vast note taking. Also, did you pick up any of the breadcrumbs that were left with foreshadowing? Because I got a ton.
That was a lot. There was certainly a lot.
It's the xenophobia for me. The Discworld series is a 41-book behemoth. 41 books. You gotta be kidding me. And a sub-series within it? Get the hell out of here. Okay, we might need more time to get through all these books. But, psh. Following for 10 months and 3 weeks. It's almost been a year. God damn. Alright, chapter 80, Minnie. Do you want me to take it away?
Yeah, go ahead. Go
All right.
ahead. Have fun with a sweet eater.
Okay. So, starting off, we get to our hero Quoth, laying awake, savoring the moment, with Denna in his arms. And I believe it said that he would have liked it to last for I don't know, another few years if he had the chance to, but this is his point where he was like, this is the best moment of my life. This is what the moment was. So he's lying with Denna, and he hears these tree branches breaking all around him. So we get to the onslaught of this giant lizard coming forward, and he gets to throwing out the bucket, and he's hoping that the lizard is actually going to eat the bucket that he packs the resin in. Again, this is supposed to be 10 times the lethal dose, something like that, of what he thought it was originally, so it should do the job. Dracus goes about its business as usual, snuffing out the fire, rolling around in it, and then after a while, it gets to the bucket and eats the bucket, and Quoth reflects on how it must be kind of moving around in its body with all this charred wood and getting pushed further down, or so he hopes, through the digestive system. Quoth notices that the Harvest Festival is going on in Traben, and the lizard starts to move a lot more vigorously and grunting, letting Quoth know that the sweets are taking effect. The drugs are taking effect here. Ophalum. However you say it.
Alum, also known as Denner resin.
Denner resin. There we go. So Dracus kind of like nests into this fire on the coals like it normally does, and it's facing away from Traben. All of a sudden, Quoth is going through like, I hope this is enough to kill it, and it turns around, noticing the fire for the Harvest Festival. Lets loose this deep roar, and Denna is still dead asleep, and Quoth is like, yes, to be in a Denner resin knockout. There's few things that could wake somebody from this. Checks her vitals, she's fine. When the Dracus starts bounding towards Traben with reckless abandon, Denner's muttering a few things, and one of the words that is muttered is Moteth. And we have no idea what this is, but this, I'm assuming, is going to be pertinent or a clue. So we have a little clue here. Moteth. Moteth.
Perhaps, yeah.
Write
I can't
that
remember how
down.
they said it in the book.
Remember it. Might be Moteth. Who knows?
Probably Moteth. I can't remember from the audiobook.
Denna ate a lot of Denna. Yes.
Oh, you mean Deborah?
Deborah. Deborah ate a lot of Denna. So we get to this giant dragon barreling towards Traben. Quoth has left water for Denna when she wakes up, thinks about like the thirst that she must have when she's gonna wake up. He gathers his things, slings them over his shoulder, and says, I've got a dragon to kill, and sprints off. Sprints off towards the town, and as he gets closer, he starts hearing some screams and realizes the town is in a panic. He couldn't see the Dracus, but he heard it, and he assessed the town once again. Looking at the church, he knew what he had to do, and he said fear and hesitation left him at that moment. So we get Quoth going from roof to roof, as he usually did in Tarbean, to where he gets to the inn, and he slips on the clay tiles, and he's like, gotta take my boots off at this point. I need more traction. So this man says, my feet are better. I'm gonna go barefoot on the roof here. And it is important to remember that it is slightly raining, I believe it was said. So he takes a burning shingle with him, puts it in his teeth as he's climbing. Koth could see that 6 of the biggest fires in town are raging. They're like bonfires. and he remembers Elxadal's words that all fires are one fire, and all fires are at the sympathist's command. Quoth fixated on his burning shingle at that memory. So we get to Quoth focusing the Alar and scratching a Yule rune, then a Dolk rune, and a Payson rune, and thrusted the smoldering shingle into a cistern, quenching the shingle in the water and driving his pocket knife into the shingle and pinning it to the wooden wall of the cistern. This kind of created what he called a slapdash heat eater that was the quickest anybody could ever think of.
Still amusing, though.
It's smart. Very smart. So, Quoth had dimmed most of the fires in town at this point with the little trick that he used, slowing them down enough to give the townsfolk and their buckets a chance. He made his way to the Tellin church with the other half of the shingle that he had dropped still burning. So this is one thing that I thought it was important to reflect on, how two things of a whole create a stronger binding. So it's actually fortunate that it was dropped in half, right? So he stops before the front door, kneeling to light the remaining resin that he pulled up with a bottle of brand and the burning shingle. Quoth began to climb an oak tree that was out in front of the church. He broke off a twig from the oak tree, again that rule being applied here, and stuffed it into his pocket. He makes it to the stone ledge on the second floor of the church, and works his way to the huge iron wheel that was on the front and center of the front door of the church. This wheel was said to weigh a ton. It's about a 10-foot iron wheel. He restokes the fire on his shingle and holds the oak twig over the flame. The oak tree that he had previously climbed up burst into brilliant flames. He sees the Dracus about 2 streets away, bellowing blue flames and careening into a wall. The wall of a shop, kind of not even stopping at the wall and smashing through it with little resistance. This thing is a monster. Third time pays for all when thinking of sympathy that he just performed, and that quote kind of echoes in his mind. So he splits his mind into 2 parts and then a third. He says nothing less than a triple binding would work here. Something to comment on that. Kilvin was impressed when Quoth made a double binding. He's now doing a triple binding, right? He said a lot of Relar would focus and struggle and not be able to replicate a double binding. He's doing 3 right now. The Dracus begins eating the resin under the wheel, and at this point, Quoth reaches for the scale and the lodestone from his cloak. He focuses Zalar and speaks a binding. Quoth could feel the tugging of the two, the lodestone and the scale, and after focusing and letting go of the lodestone, it shot towards the iron scale. The great iron wheel weighing a ton shot towards the ground. It was said if anyone had been watching, they would have noticed that the wheel fell faster than gravity could account for. They would have noticed that it fell at an angle, almost as if it were drawn to the Dracus, almost as if Telu himself had steered it toward the beast with a vengeful hand. But there was no one there to see the truth of things, and there was no god guiding it, only me. And that is how the chapter ends. But drawing a parallel to a god, as usual.
Because of course he does.
Yeah, this is the blustering of his ego here, and you're gonna see it in many chapters, in these last chapters, and you're gonna see why it's important. Quoth turned the Dracus into a giant magnet, 100%.
So, chapter 81 is literally a page, so...
It's a BB page.
Yeah, pretty much. I'll take this one. I'll take one for the team.
Thank you.
So, essentially, it's directly after we are looking down at the wreckage of the Dracus. It is motionless and everything is dark, and he feels a little bit of regret for killing such a thing, but it needed to be done. He puts away the scale and the loading stone, and then he hears a noise and feels the roof shift under him. And then the building collapses with him on top of it. And he tried his best, but no. He goes into it with, he tries to climb onto the charred branches of an oak tree. They snapped, and he tumbled through the branches and struck his head and passed out. Nat 1 right there.
Definitely.
He went from a nat 20 to a nat 1.
As is he is used to, right? This is the kind of thing that happens to him all the time. It's a give and take. But we get to chapter 82 from there. Do you mind if I take this one?
No, go for it.
This is where he wakes up saying, "It feels as if somebody or someone had hit me in the head with a church," which isn't too far off from the truth. He wakes up in a room within an inn. Quoth realizes he's bandaged quite well and begins to assess his injuries, kind of like Sherlock Holmes style. He starts going over the anatomy and grimacing at Arwel's disapproval that he couldn't remember what he was trying to describe. He begins to get dressed, and a young girl rushes in named Nellie. Nellie says that no one was killed, a boy broke his arm, a few others are burned. The doctor said that Quoth wasn't likely to wake up at all, and Quoth asks about his cousin, and Nellie says, "You're the only one that we've seen that's outside of town." So, he makes his way downstairs to a particularly sour innkeep. The innkeeper says, "Does your face hurt? Because it's killing me." Stupid joke. Cloth asks for bread, fruit, and whatever meat that was ready in the back, a bottle of Avanish fruit wine, strawberry preferred, tossing a drab onto the table, as Quoth tells the man of his impatience and proposing a threat as Quoth focuses on the drab and begins to work sympathy, causing smoke.
Smirk! Cause a smirk!
Causing smirk to curl up. And
Smirking nuts.
smirk these nuts. Wow. Nice, Minnie. The varnish begins to bubble. You guys, my speech is not going to work today if you keep doing this. Thank you for the nut. Begin to bubble black ring around the iron, and the innkeeper is terrified. Quoth also follows up with a threat, or I will burn this place down around your ears and dance among the ashes of your charred sticky bones. So, innkeeper falls into place, snaps too. We get barefoot Quoth coming to the Greystone Hill with his full travel sack. Denna is nowhere to be seen. Quoth waits around longer for more than an entirely sensible time, and Denna is not there. He calls out after a while, but she's gone. He wrote a note explaining what had happened, and that he would wait in Traben for a day, used a piece of coal to write her name down on one of the Greystones, and drew an arrow down to where he had left the food and blankets and the bottle of water, and then left. Quoth also guessed she'd be called Nellie before heard her name.
I'd be like, oh yes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Also, can I just say, I am actually a little disappointed in Kavoth. He did not quote Demonica. For whatever reason, the one instance he's making threats and he's not directly quoting Demonica.
Yeah, and this one seemed to be like a particularly vitreous, right? Like this one was like, I'm tired of this shit. I need to be on my way, and you're not gonna stop me. So that's been a common pattern throughout the book, and this is the one time he doesn't do it, when he has the anger in him to make like a valid threat, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Minnie's disappointed, I'm disappointed. Two disappointed.
Everyone's disappointed.
Yes. So we get to So we get to the inn where he had left his boots. He picks those up. He goes to retrieve his knife and notices that the water in the cistern had gone far below where he had pinned it to the shingle. And he couldn't help but think, if not for the makeshift heat eater he had made, that there might not be a town at all anymore. He looks around, assessing the damage from the town here, and then he sees that townsfolk are gathering at the inn to gossip. And the constable and mayor spot him right away. And they take him to a private room. The two talked a lot and let Quanth know what they interpreted. They thought the Dracus was a demon, and that it was responsible for the Mountain Farm massacre. They let Quanth know that he was found unconscious atop the wheel that had killed the Dracus. So I just picture, like, him folded over the end of the wheel with his body kind of like hanging on either side of the top end. The two go on to say that an old widow and a young boy had seen someone standing on the roof of the church, lit by the fire below, with his arms raised in front like he was praying. Many thought twice of Quanth being just a bystander after that. So rumors started to spread. What he thought nobody had seen, two people actually did see.
2 people's enough.
Word gets around, right?
Of course, especially in small towns.
So they didn't see a penniless, ragged boy sitting in front of them. They saw a mysterious, battered figure who had killed a demon. And he says, "It's high time I caught a piece of luck in this business. If they considered me some sort of hero or holy man, it gave me useful leverage." The constable lets Quanth know that they disposed of the Dracus's body, reciting the rhyme, "Dig a pit that's 10 by 2, ash and elm and rowan 2.
I like that one.
So, and right before that, he was like, I hope they didn't get rid of the body, and thinking of, like, the scientific marvel of the beast and how much money that body could fetch. And it's just been reduced to unusable parts in a pit. And he starts reflecting on if he should dig it up, and then he's like, no, that won't do much good to see me digging around for the demon's corpse. Probably will paint the wrong idea. Quanth asks again about his cousin, and the constable dumbly asks if she was involved with the beast, where Quanth corrects that she was helping him in his work, and the mayor asks if his work is done there nervously. Quanth then propositions that he needs to know what the Mouthen dug up on Barrow Hill. He issues an order for someone who knows anything to come talk to him. Quanth goes to tell them to come quickly, as he has pressing matters to the south, and he has to leave tomorrow evening. Quanth swept out of the door at those words, with his cloak trailing dramatically behind him, and he then remarks on it, "I was a trooper. I know how to make an exit. It was time to go."
There we go.
There it is. Hydrate time.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for the hydrate, Silver.
You drinking nut milk?
Nut milk, almond milk. That is nut milk, I guess, right?
It is.
I do like me some almond. I do like me some nut.
Sorry, I have like one joke.
You have one brain cell too.
I have one?
Yeah, you got upgraded from the half.
Yay!
We don't need to share anymore.
I'm so happy, but I'll miss our brain cell.
It did its job. It did its work. It's retiring.
It deserves it. Oh no! Please tell me it's not its one day before retirement. It's doomed.
It'll be fine. Don't worry.
Okay.
So, we get to Quanth taking a bath, tending his wounds. A few people stop by to tell Quanth what he already knew. Quanth was toying with the idea of writing a song about the Dracus when a faint knock was heard. It's a girl about 13 years of age. Enters. She looks like she's been missing sleep for quite a number of days now. Her name is Verania. I believe I said that right. Verania Greyflock. Claus says that Verane is a tiny red flower and guesses that her family calls her Nina. And this kind of disarms the girl. It's gone to the farm. The farmer's market to get our nuts. She speaks of what the mouth ends dug up. The youngest boy showed her. It was a big fancy pot, about 3 feet tall. It had all sorts of writings and pictures on it, made of fancy colors with writing in silver or gold. The pictures were people. There was a woman holding a broken sword, a man next to a dead tree, another man with a dog biting his leg. Koth asks if there was one with white hair and black eyes, and Nina nods wide-eyed. And this is where Koth is like, the Chandrian! It's them.
The Chandrian!
Classic evil!
Not gonna lie though, ever since I recited the Chandrian's name, my luck turned completely bad.
I told you not to. I warned you.
It actually happened.
You react more to Silver more than your IRL. And I'm at that point too. Rune is whenever I hear Rune in anything, I just look up. That's just how it is. You're living the life now, Silver.
That happens, man.
So Cloth asks about the writing and says it's all foreign. She doesn't know. There was also one with no face and just a hood and nothing inside. There was a mirror at his feet, and there was a bunch of moons over him. Full moon, half moon, sliver moon. And there was a woman with some of her clothes off, as Nina blushes.
Oh boy.
So, these pictures, remember these two, because these are important. They're clues. We're getting a lot of clues here, guys.
Clues.
Blues clues. Cloth asks if she could draw any of the writing. She begins to tear up and says, "Are the demons going to be coming for me too? Cause I seen it." And Cloth shakes his head reassuringly, but she still bursts into tears. And she says, "I keep having dreams. I know they're going to come get me." At this point, Cloth knows that no words are going to be enough to comfort her, so he brings out a tiny piece of a sympathy lamp that he was working on in the fishery. A disc of bright metal covered in intricate sigilry on one side. He says, "I got this charm when I was in Valoran, far away across the Stormwall Mountains. It is the most excellent charm against demons," and presses it into her palm. Nina thanks him, white-knuckled gripping the charm. Cloth then went on to saying how it works, and he's like, "Close your eyes," and recites the first 10 lines of Ve Valoris Artane. And says, it's a tune team now. So we got attunement, right? D&D basic. D&D nod right there.
Hell yeah.
She then throws her arms around him, gives him a kiss on his cheek, standing and suddenly blushing. Her eyes were bright, and Cloth noticed how actually beautiful she was. Cloth was left to reflect. In this last month, I had pulled a woman from a blazing inferno. I called fire and lightning down on assassins and escaped to safety. I'd even killed something that could have either been a dragon or a demon, depending on your point of view. I actually felt like any sort of heroism in this room for the first time. If you're looking for a reason for the man I was eventually to become, if you're looking for the beginning, look here. So, big moment here, big hero moment. His first thank you bystander.
Yeah.
And that is where the chapter ends. So, if you're actually looking at this and dissecting what's going on with Quoth too, just with the psychology of it, he's playing the part of a hero, right?
He is.
And he's doing it because other people want him to be a hero. And that's gonna
Yes,
come
and this
full
is
circle.
it's also stated later by Bast.
It is.
Which, by the way, I'm gonna read the entire threat section.
I knew it. I knew it. I was like, Mansur's taking this chapter. It has to happen.
Glad we're on the
I
same
threw my
page.
hands off. I was like, I can't. Anything with Bast is your business.
By the time we come back, I'm gonna have the art done.
Ooh, I am excited. That slipped my mind too. Thank you for reminding me about that. I'm looking forward to that.
It's gonna be so good.
You guys are gonna get a little treat teaser of art that Mansur is doing herself.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be glorious. I can't wait. So, getting back to where we're at, chapter 83, another short one. Do you want to take that one?
Sure. This chapter pretty much is just, it goes over that that evening he gathered up all of his things and he's on his way back to the university. I was about to say Imre, but technically speaking, the university. And the innkeeper still doesn't like him, but that's fine. He doesn't care. And yeah, he goes down to the docks. He sees a pretty young girl, and he asked if they had seen, if any of the dockworkers had seen a young woman go through there, dark-haired, pretty, and they had. So he knows at this point that Denna has made it through, and she clearly has already left, and has shipped downriver. And it kind of just breezes over that, and they dock in Imre a few hours after dawn, and he went to Devi's. And after some spirited bargaining, gave her the loading stone and the single talent in order to wipe out his extremely short-term loan of 20 talents, back down to his original debt. And he remarks that a 4-talent debt no longer seems to be that much of a big deal. He's like, yeah, whatever, I'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's been gone for 4 days, so he goes around to make his apologies because he has missed an appointment with Count Threp, 2 meetings with Manette, a lunch with Fella, Ankas has gone without a musician for 2 nights, and even Auri has reproached him for just randomly disappearing. He missed classes with Kilvin, Elxadal, and Arwell, and they all accepted his apologies with grumbles, and he knows that next time tuition comes around, he's gonna pay for that. And Will and Sim are both very worried because all of a sudden Kavoth is no longer there, and our dear friend Ambrose Jackus is he's strutting about like he owns the place, and they all think of the worst, that he's been run out of town. But nah, it's good. And of course he keeps looking for Denna, but as it often is, does no good.
Never good. Denna, usually finds him, right? That's usually how it goes.
Yes.
So, actually a lot better than I thought it was gonna go, for him coming back, right?
Yeah, like,
Mhm.
no big drama. Shockingly.
Okami, welcome to the stream. Pull up a stool and enjoy the story, brother. So, rather shockingly, not so bad coming back. The hard part was over, or so we thought. We get to chapter 84. He talks about eventually he physically runs into Denna, turning a corner over in Imre. Denna was cheery upon meeting Quoth, taking his hand, and introduces Quoth to Lintarin. Lintarin is a well-muscled, well-dressed, and well-bred man. He reeks of money. And Quoth and Lintarin exchange a bow. Quoth asks with an eyebrow if this is Master Ash, kind of like the subtle language that they have grown to communicate through just body language, and Denna shakes her head no. Denna says that they should have lunch and that she was disappointed that Quoth didn't get to finish his last story. Quoth remarks that Prince Gallant kills the dragon but loses the treasure and the girl, kind of letting her know what happened.
Yeah, it's a clever way to do it too.
Yeah. So Denna says she doesn't generally go for serial stories, but she has changed her mind on these things before. And Quoth says he still plays at Anchors if Denna wants to catch one night. Lintarin and Denna left together through the cobbled streets of Imri. And we get to Quoth going back to Will and Sim, waiting for him at the fountain in front of the Olean. Quoth watches the strange patterns of the leaves dancing around in the wind, and the boys notice Quoth had found Denna by the look on his face. They get to talking. Will lets Quoth know of a hole in the story, that Denna was only looking to actually spend time with Quoth. Why would she look for a patron that she already knew was safe? And Will kind of lets Quoth know that she was only trying to spend time with you, bud. And you're dumb for not seeing it.
Yes. And trying to very clearly spell out to Kavoth that, yes, Denna does have a thing for you, just say as much. And I don't, is this also the part where I believe it's Sim says that she's cruel?
Yeah, exactly.
Which is accurate.
Yeah, it is. It's a good way to describe her. Oh, Chowsy's here. Hello, Chowsy. My favorite
Chowsy!
doggo. Well, Grizzly's my favorite doggo. You're just my favorite doggo. So one favorite for you. How you been, Chowsy? Welcome to the stream. We are getting to the end of the book.
Hi.
But we get to Sim kind of saying that she finds him at Anchors. She comes to get him
You
at the
too can
Olean.
become a
God
hero.
damn it. Chowsy, thank you for the sub. You guys are going crazy with these subs today. Thank you so much. No, don't
Make
do
him
it.
cry.
No. Stop that.
Make him cry.
At least wait till we get through the chapters, right?
I'm right here. Let me drink his tears.
Oh my god. Yeah, you could use those for some good magic. Silver, no, don't you give me that face. Do not. Do not. So, oh my god, there's so many of. Look at all these hee-hees. There's tons. Everybody's got one now. Lulu created a monster.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's cursed, but in the best way. So, Sim goes on to say that if she was interested, you would be able to find her more than once a month of searching. Sim points out, well, Qua says that. Sim points out that that's a logical fallacy, and that he's just lousy at finding her, or that she's just hard to find, right?
Yes.
So, Quoth is kind of like being bullheaded at this point. Yes, he consumed the hee-hees. Sim goes on to say, you can't argue your way out of this one. She's obviously stupid for you, and you're just plain stupid, so it's a great match.
Yes.
Sim also goes on to say about Fella and her sentiments, how that's also an option, and a pretty damn good one. Quoth notices that his loot is gone at this point.
Done.
And Sim's face goes blank. Agape mouth blank. Ambrose is with a bunch of his fucking friends, his little posse, holding Quoth's loot.
By the neck.
By the neck. Almost, it's weird how they put it. It was like very kind of like loosely at the neck, I believe. Like at any moment it could fall. Kind of like dangling it in front of him like a dog treat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ambrose being a chode, who would have thought? Right on brand. So, It was a tense moment. Cloth gets to his feet, and is surprised that him and Ambrose are now at eye level. He's used to Ambrose being taller than him. And this kind of shows you of he's still a boy that's grown up, right?
Yep.
But at this point, he considers himself to be on equal level with Ambrose, at least physically. It was a tense moment as Claw said, "Give it to me," 2 times. Ambrose was uneasy, sensing something unexpected in Claw's voice at this point. And his friends also began to look unsure behind Ambrose. Ambrose sang a few lines, strumming on the lute with no particular rhythm or key, and he sings a song written about cloth, and a few passersby stop to watch Ambrose as he gestures thematically for others to join in. Do you have the song?
Yes. I'm not going to actually sing it because I have no idea what beat to put this with, but there was once a rabble named Kavoth, whose tongue was quick at quipping. The masters thought him clever and rewarded him with whipping. Then goes, everybody sing!
You too can
Oh
become a hero.
my god.
Eat it!
Silver.
Eat it!
Yeah. God. Gonna add that to the blush
You
counter.
too can become a hero.
Thank you for the subs. Who got subs this time around? We
So
got
many people!
Multiverse Demon, E Leave 666, Gamepedia, Black Moon Rose, Lore
You
Master
too
Bonnie,
can become a
Okami
hero.
117, Salad VTuber, Candied Sea Pig, other LOL player, Biscuits V2, all people that I know and love. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Silver. And we're gonna be hearing that for a little while. I don't know if you want to stop or if you
too
want to
can
keep
become
going.
a hero.
This is a very tense moment. You did get a sub, Okami. Thanks, Silver, for your sub.
You get a sub, and you get a sub!
Silver, I made
You
this
too can become a hero.
for you guys too. You could add it to the blush counter. There you go.
Ozzy, yes!
You too can become a
Stop
hero.
that
God
hype
damn
train.
it, Chowsy! What the
Got it.
hell? Do not start a hype train. No. Please, no.
You too
Chowsy!
can become a hero.
I am so gonna get you back. Thank you guys. You guys are crazy. Crazy.
You too can become a hero.
Ah, good job.
My wall is just bits. What are you guys doing? Crazy.
You too
I'm
can
actually not
become
sure
a
you can
hero.
actually start a hype train right now. Whoa! 5 more subs!
Silver, you have given a
Hey!
total of 48 subs in the community. What are you
too can
doing?
become a hero.
Schultzy, Aspro, Delicious Pie, Layla, all of the Cat VT. Look at all these people. And these are all people that I know too. It's crazy. Oh, there's the bit sound. They're coming. The bits are coming. Chowsy, stop it.
I'm not sure we can actually get a hype train because I think one was triggered a little while ago.
I didn't know a hype train was triggered. What is
Yeah.
going on? I'm speechless. You guys always show me so much love, and I don't know why or where, but I am very grateful. Thank you so much. I do not deserve the kindness, my lords and my ladies.
Ah, shit, you do.
Oh shit, I do.
Suck it.
My God. I think there must be like a
actually,
timer or something, right?
Yeah, there's a cooldown
You
period.
too
I think
can
it's a
become a
90-minute
hero.
Oh,
cooldown.
and there it is.
There we go.
What
Hype train
going
is
on?
close.
Chowsy, thank you for the gifted sub. Guys,
Dude, if this thing starts, I think it automatically goes to like at least level 3.
You too can become a hero.
no. Is it retroactive? I don't
Yeah, it
care.
is.
I don't care. You don't have to do that. Please don't do it. You guys got me all teary on my debut. Don't do that again because I have another debut coming up.
You too can become a hero.
Make him cry.
God Damn, you guys are sadists.
Oh, there we go.
You too can become
Ludo.
a hero.
Choo-choo.
My God.
Choo-choo.
Chowsy, what are you doing? Gifting a sub to Bad Rhyme. Ludo got Logwolf too?
You
I'm gonna go
too
to,
can
I'm gonna go
become
to,
a
that was a
hero.
lot. Level
That-
5
oh my
hype train, let's go!
God, what are you guys doing? Hello, hi. I am I'm Bloodrune and I'm speechless. Thank you guys. What are you doing? Is this reality? I'm checking. Can you can you pinch
Oh, you
me?
need me to hit you?
Yeah, do something.
Yeah!
Something. God, Minnie. That was a little more than I
What am I
deserve.
gonna do? Do
What are
you
doing
see
out there?
arms? Do you see arms in which means
Cheer
do
one,
anything?
cheer one.
Cheer one, cheer one. I do have arms. What do you mean?
I don't.
Oh.
What do you want me to do? Pinch you? How am I supposed to do that?
Oh. Well, never mind. We'll go past that. I forgot.
You too
I'm sorry.
Can become a hero.
Yes, we do love you, you fuck. Anyway, yeah.
Anyway,
Okay.
yeah.
How about, do you want me to take over so you,
You
can just
too
like
can become a
bask?
hero.
Yeah, please do. I'm
Okay.
tongue-tied at the moment.
Okay, so as we've just gone over before the hype train, we have Ambrose who's doing a
You
bit of
too
a
can
show
become a
with
hero.
one of his rhymes. He's trying to get everyone to start singing, but Kavoth is not having it. He steps forward and in a very calm voice says, "Give it back, or I will kill you." And he says that in that moment he was perfectly earnest, and everything grew quiet again, and Ambrose throws the lute, saying catch. And of course, the lute is not meant to be tossed, and even when he grabbed, there was nothing in his hands, and it hit the cobbles, and he heard the telltale crack of the bowl. And he says that the sound reminded me of the terrible noise my father's lute made, crushed beneath my body in a soot-streaked alley in Tarbeen. I bent to pick it up and made a noise like a wounded animal. Ambrose half turned to look at me, and I saw flickers of amusement play across his face. And he opened his mouth to cry, to curse him, and do anything, but something else came out of him.
What was that?
Well,
You too can
he
become
called
a
the
hero.
name of the
Jim,
wind.
what the hell? What? Why?
He called the name of the wind!
What are you guys doing?
You
This
too
what you
can
wanted?
become a hero.
Yes, and the cobblestones, and there was horses rearing in panic. Sheet music tore from someone's hand, streaked like a strange lightning. He was pushed forward, but Ambrose was shoved down to the cobbles, twisting
too
like
can
autumn
become a hero.
leaves. His throat hurt. His lute was broken, and Ambrose had a broken arm. And he started to just
You
fade
too
a
can
little
become a
bit.
hero.
Will and Sim hurry him away and take him to Kilvin. And Kilvin is trying to understand what is happening. He's trying to get each one of them to talk individually.
You too can
And
become a hero.
They tell him about what Ambrose did, but they're not sure what Kavoth did. And he just sat on a stool, pretty much comatose. He could just feel that at some part of him there was a spark of anger. But he was lost. He was just silent. And his friends thought that he had been struck dumb. In their own words. And Elodin, of all people, is there. And Simon says that he's not right. And they think he's been struck in the head, and that his eyes look like a dog's eyes, just nothing behind them. And Kvoth tries to reach him, and says a word. Which was, Alev Sedi. And Simon's confused by it. But Elodin repeats it, and Kavoth says it. And this word helps calm his mind enough that he can start to think. Though this is while he's holding eye contact. The minute that Elodin moves and he loses eye contact, he starts to slip again. this is why we also have things like the rookery. But still, he tries.
My God.
And
I'm sorry. Jim redeemed a love confession, so we have to take another detour.
can I just finish the chapter? I'm on the last page.
Go for it.
So he says that feeling all of this kind of felt like a game where you fling your arms out and spin round and round and watching the world blur. And you're disoriented, but you continue to spin long enough until the world resolves itself and you're no longer dizzy, and you spin with the world blurring around you. And when you stop, the world lurches into regular shape, and that is pretty much the experience that he's had. And Elodin was that force that stopped it and stilled the storm in his head. And he was violently dizzy, and he cried out and raised his hands to fall sideways, falling upwards, falling inwards. And it was terrifying, but by the time he recovered, Elodin was gone.
Alright,
So,
I
there
have
you go.
many things
End
to
of the
say in post-word from that, but I'm going to address things in order. You guys are freaking crazy, 132% on that hype train. My God. Thank you so freaking much. You guys really make this... I don't know. I don't know how to even put words to it, but like I feel fulfilled being here with y'all. Thank you so much. You made me very happy today. Thank you. Fuck you, Manser. So, Jim, as I sit here... Hold on a second. As I sit here and think about you and what you and I have been through, I see that I could only love you more
You too
and
can
more
become a hero.
with each passing day. You're my inspiration each and every day. You are what keeps me going when I just want to give up. God damn it, you guys, I can't...
You too can become a hero.
Today is Break Me Day. Break Me Day. Chelsea, I'm gonna get you back. Jim hates the interruption, by the way. Where did I leave off, Jim? You're my reason for living. I love the way you love me. I love every kiss and every touch. I wouldn't know where to turn if I didn't have you. You are this hero's dream come true. I wish you could feel all the passion and all the love that I carry around for you. You have won my heart and my soul. You have won it all. You make me feel like I am in heaven. Oh my God. Okay. Jim. People don't want you to have a love confession. Okay, Jim, we're gonna save that for later. Shh, Chowsy, no one's supposed to know. No one's supposed to know.
Kissing him? Why are you kissing him?
You can't even pause the routine. Jim's like, how dare you guys interrupt my love confession. Basically, we'll fast forward to the ending. I need to tell you that I am your soulmate, masquerading as a good friend. Thank you, Jim. Let Jim be loved. He deserves it. How are the dust bunnies down there, by the way?
Better friends than you.
Okay, Minnie, come back up. We got some things to talk about.
Yeah, like the name of the wind. Literally.
So, thank you for the nut. So people pour out of the buildings, right? And they start muttering, a demon of the wind, while Sim and Will are hurrying him away, right? Jim, I'm sorry everybody ruined your love confession. You could refund your points. It wasn't up to snuff, and I definitely am disappointed in myself for that. I'll give you a better one. Mwah. So, right like you said, Elodin's the one who calms him. It's kind of described like that spinny feeling that you get when you're like seasick, how the room is just turning and turning, and you can't make heads or tails of up and down. And Sim is concerned, saying that Quath's eyes are like dog's eyes and he won't respond. And Elodin meets Quath's eyes and told Quath to say Erleviseti. Erleviseti? It means wind. Quath said it, and then Sim points out that it means wind. Elodin's eyes change in that moment, and when he looks towards Quath, I wrote this down. He looked deep into me, not into my eyes, but through my eyes. His gaze went into me and settled solidly into my chest as if he had both hands inside me, feeling the shape of my lungs, the movement of my heart, the heat of my anger, the pattern of the storm that thundered inside me.
Sounds kinky.
It did sound a little kinky, right? So yeah, this is Master Namer, and at this moment, I really truly believe that Elodin saw Quath's name, his true name. And that was what I had to comment on it, but I thought it was funny, almost as if Elodin could feel what had happened from the wind, like the wind sent Elodin a message almost. It's almost like he knew he had to be there. Can you have a private love confession? I don't know how Felix will feel about that.
I think you should.
You know what? When we're playing Fortnite, you could have your private confession. Give it to you then.
No comment.
What? What do you have to say?
Really?
You're
Confessions of a fortnight?
yeah. That's how homies
Good.
bond.
Bro.
That's how homies nut and bond.
I don't want to know what you get out of Fortnite. I don't.
Don't worry about
So after all these nuts, you're gonna know the name of the nut pretty soon. Oh, no.
Cetria, thank you for the follow.
Hey, Zetria.
Good.
Hello, hello. There are too many nuts. Thank you for the My Hero, Don't Worry. That is one of my favorite songs, and also one of the most heartfelt songs I have ever heard. Jumping back into the swing of things, guys. Cetria, hi. I hope you have a great day. Pull up a stool and listen. We are getting to the end of this book, or at least drudging through head first, trying to get to this end. I am clawing tooth and nail, and Manser is just enjoying the show.
Excuse me, I'm contributing.
Yes, to getting towards the end of the book, but you're contributing and actively participating in the sadistic nature that is going on in chat. So yes, you are enjoying what is going on.
Of course I am.
Chapter 85. Will and Sim take him to his room at Anchors. He sleeps for 18 hours straight. Jameson's errand boy tracks him down and lets him know that he's needed at the Horns in a half hour. Big surprise. Ambrose is already at the Masters telling them what happened. He probably went there straight away. Ambrose and him stood before the Master's table for being accused of malfeasance in retaliation, and Quath accuses him of destruction of property, theft, and conduct unbecoming of a member of the Arcanum. So we have a little homage here to Abinthy's Defend Yourself Well at the University once again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Quath reflects on his remembrance of it's called Rerum Codex, or the university's official rules, which he became distinctly familiar with after the first time on the Horns. Quoth watches Ambrose speak, noticing he was on painkillers and badly banged up, probably laudanum, he guesses. Master Hem leads the charge against Quoth, planning to knock off theft or destruction as it cannot be both, quote unquote. But Quoth interjects with logic, saying it very well could be both, because if you didn't steal something to possess to destroy it, you would never be able to destroy it at all. So it's an if-then clause, right? That's what he's going for here. Hem puts it to a vote to strike the grievance for theft. Hem, Branger, Mandrag, and Lauren all raise their hands, so the grievance actually stood 5.5 to 4. So it's not stricken. The next was destruction of property, only opposed by Hem and Branger. The Chancellor asks Ambrose, after Ambrose protests at the destruction price of the loot being 9 talents and 6, and Quoth says that he won it playing corners after asked, "Where did you get the money?" by the Chancellor. And they kind of have a laugh about that. I think, was it Kilvin who laughed? Or
yeah,
Aladdin?
Kilvin definitely laughed.
It was one of the two. The Chancellor went on to number of lashes, and everybody's kind of like appalled when Quoth says, "I don't seek any," for Ambrose, where it could have been more. It could have been up to 6 or 9. 2 and 9? Something like that.
Yes.
Lauren, Branger, and Hem oppose the theft guilty ruling, but it passes. No master opposed the ruling of 10 talents and 6 for the theft, because there is a fine included, which is 1 talent. Quoth makes his case for suspension for the arcanum thrown at Ambrose on the topic of conduct unbecoming of a master. They're all kind of surprised that they would even consider such a harsh punishment, but personal distaste, Quoth goes on, personal distaste and publicly mocking me, stealing and destroying the only things of value to me. Quoth furthers his points that the attitude that was displayed is dangerous, especially if all Relar possessed it. He goes on to say that there hasn't been a burning of an Arcanist for over 200 years, and the petty Ambrose would be putting the long-standing peace in safety and danger. And all of the masters are kind of like, he does make a fair point, right?
Mhm.
The vote came to Arwul's. Arwul's hand goes up, Lauren's hand goes up, Eladin's hand goes up, Elxdal's hand goes up. Kilvin and the Chancellor did not put their hands up, so the grievance failed. Quoth was slightly disappointed as Ambrose let a sigh of relief out. So Ambrose was very close to getting a suspension here. And Quoth did not think he would even get that far. So he's actually like, wow, I actually was able to convince them from my logic to get that close to suspending Ambrose. I feel pretty good about myself. 6 lashes. Move on to Ambrose's proposition here. 6 lashes is sought by Ambrose. Quoth protests to say a few things and is kind of panicked, and he gets cut off by the Chancellor. And the Chancellor's like, "You made your case," and then it goes to 6 lashes and an expulsion, and the vote is cast, and all 9 hands are raised against him, and that is how the chapter ends.
Dun dun dun.
So we get him to a fun belittling amusement, and then going to just heart in his ass, right?
I am shitting out my heart right now. I'm sorry.
Literally. He was definitely holding his breath at this point. I'm gonna go ahead and just steamroll into this, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
We get to the next chapter being a who opposes this action? Eladin speaks up and says, "I do." And then it gets to all in favor of striking the expulsion. And it's Eladin, Elxdal, Kilvin, Lauren, and the Chancellor. All hands save for Hems. So they were okay with proposing it to show that it was a real danger, but none of them went through for it except for him, right?
Hmm.
Expulsion was repealed for Ellen spoke again to move Quoth to the rank of Relar. So this is a promotion, right?
Yes, it is.
And all in favor are called for their hands to raise, and in a crazy twist of events, it goes from being expelled from class to getting a promotion of Relar rank, which a lot of people never even get to see. And it's all raised in a single motion. All the hands go up except for Hems. And Eladin is now considered his sponsor. Ambrose immediately just bursts out in a what?
What?
Confused, beaten, bloodied, does not know what to think. He scampers off after him, who is quickly exiting after the Chancellor to talk about things. So, Eladin pops down next to Cloth, all happy, and Cloth is kind of standing there with his mouth open still, and he's like, confused? Walk with me. Yeah, this is the second time that Cloth gets promoted for being a little shit. So, Eldon says, Relar means speaker, and tells a story of the university being built on top of old ruins of another university. He goes on to say that Alir means to see things, and see things for what they really are. Relar means to speak things, names. The Arcanum was a small collection of men who understood things, men who knew powerful names. They taught a few students, slowly, carefully encouraging them toward a path of power and wisdom, and magic, real magic. He goes on to say that the Arcanum in those days was a strong brandy, and now it's just a well-watered down wine. So, you get the feeling here that Eladin is kind of like, I wouldn't say upset with how the university is right now, but he's kind of like, the power was in its early days, right? Like he's reminiscing of another time where he would have fit in.
Mm-hmm.
And Eladin says that Quoth called the name of the wind yesterday, and Quoth then questions, how could a name do that? And he asks, like, is it Taberlin, the great names, or like names like Quoth and Eladin? And Eladin does a demonstration, which I found very amusing. So he kind of like looks up and screams, Nathan, down the street. And he waits for a few seconds, and a boy runs up, and it's Eladin's like errand boy, or every master has one, right?
Mm-hmm.
He hands his master's robe and says, take this to my room. And the boy runs off. And Eladin's like, see what we did here? And
Means that power.
Quoth is like, that's not magic. And he says it's parallel to calling the wind's name and it listening. And Quoth is like, well, if that's true, is the wind alive? And Eladin ventures that most things are alive in one way or another. So Eladin answers the question of how the wind was called if he didn't know how. This is a really, really good portion of a paragraph. I don't know if you had it marked down, but on my book, it's 646. It's about the waking mind and sleeping mind.
I actually have it. It's
Okay.
right here.
Perfect.
Eladin clapped his hands together sharply. That is an excellent question. The answer is that each of us has two minds, a waking mind and a sleeping mind. Our waking mind is what thinks and talks and reasons, but the sleeping mind is more powerful. It sees deeply into the heart of things. It is part of us that dreams. It remembers everything. It gives us intuition. Your waking mind does not understand the nature of names. Your sleeping mind does. It already knows many things that your waking mind does not.
Perfect.
What?
Sorry, did I scare you?
One component, but still blue, blue, blue. Yes.
A competent one, but blue, blue, blue. Yes. So Cloth is told that the breaking of his lutes roused his sleeping mind, and your sleeping mind had awoken like an angry, prodded bear. Cloth asks what was whispered to him, and it was a name that settled the angry bear. That's the only clue that he was given. Cloth asks if that is why he moved to suspend the expulsion. Aladdin says that he was in no real danger of expulsion in the first place. The first student to call the name of the wind in years. And then he talks about this being a very rare occasion that the Arcanum could not kind of like let go just yet, right? Like you're in no danger, you just called the wind, so you get a free pass. Some strong emotion wakes a sleeping mind usually. The name came to Eladin when he was arguing with Elxadal, and this was when he was 14. He said Elxadal's braziers exploded in a cloud of burning ash and cinders. Eldon says that there are advanced bindings and secrets and the nature of names that are only taught to Ralar. Kilvin also thought that Cloth was ready. Cloth asks about the archives, and Eladin says, you see, the archives are Lauren's domain, his kingdom. Those secrets are not mine to give away. So he's like, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. That's...
Have you seen Lauren? I am not touching that.
Yeah. Like, even the crazy man will not talk to this stone-faced gargoyle of a man. Cloth remembers that the four-plate door, of course he does. Eladin laughs and says, you don't aim for small secrets, do you? And he remembers the word on the door that was etched saying that almost killed me. And says that since Cloth is a Ralar, he will admit that it exists. And he looks over his shoulder and then winks at Cloth, kind of being playful, crazy man that he is.
Love him.
Eladin brings up the color blue. Words are... I actually wrote this down. Words are pale shadows of forgotten names. As names have power, words have power. Words can light fires in the minds of men. Words can wring tears from the hardest of hearts. There are 7 words that will make a person love you. There are 10 words that will break a strong man's will. But a word is nothing but a painting of a fire. A name is the fire itself. Eldin then looks at the sky and just starts screaming blue. I love like how rapidly he goes from being like a very wise, like learned person to just some crazy lunatic, right? Like just completely off the wall nature. It makes him so lovable.
Honestly, I gave a Q&A earlier, and that's exactly the energy I had.
Oh,
I
really?
can't talk to. Yes.
I just picture you cackling maniacally now.
That happened.
Oh my god. Is there records of that? Can I find that?
No,
Damn
there's
it.
no records.
Damn it. Guess I'll have to catch another one. No. Bad Mini. Take 87, please.
Right, chapter 87, Boldness. We open with Simon and Willem talking in the afternoon at Anchor's that same day after he's spoken to Eladin. And it pretty much going, he's insane, dude. Like, really insane. Though, now he's your sponsor, and he kept you from being expelled, so cool, I guess? But it's like, okay, well, Cavalli, you really need to stop complaining. You beat us both to a law, even if your sponsor is cracked. And you got paid 2 span of silver for breaking Ambrose's arm. You got away free as a bird. And Kavoth says, not exactly. I still have to be whipped. And they're like, what, you still have to be whipped? Yeah. So, malfeasance, you can't really just walk away from malfeasance. You have to have some kind of punishment for that. It would set a bad precedent for the university. And while Kavoth doesn't like it, he kind of has to do it. And he goes on and just kind of, Sim is being a sweetheart, and Kavoth going, I love you, Sim, never change, I love you so much.
Yeah.
Sim says that he's drunk.
It's like you're the most honest person I know, Sim.
Yes, it's like, no, it's the truth, you're a good person, better than I'll ever be.
Mm-hmm.
And he couldn't tell if he was being made fun of, but Simon had the decency to look embarrassed. But by the time he made it back to the university, it was dark, and he went up to the roof of Mainz, and he was shocked to see that Ori was waiting for him. And she sat on a little chimney, her feet bare, looking just like the little fairy as always. They exchanged their pleasantry, and Kavoth brings her a gift of honey wine, and she's quite happy with it. And it's like, that's a princely gift. Think of all the tipsy bees, because honey wine.
Tipsy
And
bees.
he says that it is filled with sunlight and a smile and a question. And the question's at the bottom. She responds that it's a heavy question. And she brought him a ring that apparently keeps secrets. He held it to his ear, and Ori corrects him that it does not tell secrets. It keeps secrets. Anything more would be greedy. And shockingly, the ring actually fits his hand. And he's even surprised about it. He's like, well, it's your secret, so of course it would fit. Who else would it fit? And she also says that she has brought apples and eggs. And she's also willing to offer a lovely honey wine. And he says that he has brought bread and cheese. So they eat their dinner, trying to be as sophisticated as possible, by way of, like, toddler tea party.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best way to put it. And Ori starts talking about how the wind has been bringing leaves into the underthing. And they settle in down and things are so a-rustle there. And that a mother owl has moved in and made her rest right in the middle of the Grey 12, Boulder's Brass. And she says that owls are wise, they are careful and patient, and wisdom precludes boldness. And that's why owls make poor heroes, because they think before they act.
I thought that was a kind of prolific thing to say. Like, it's a good point, right?
Ari is very intelligent. I still think fully that she was a student of naming before she went odd.
Owler is offended.
You're not a hero! But he does say that the mother owl is fearless, and she has a face like a wicked moon.
Mm.
And Kavoth asks if Auri would be willing to show him the underthing. And of course, then she gets cheeky, because I love this, and says, Kavoth, I thought you were a gentleman. Imagine asking to see a girl's underthing. And Kavoth is kind of stunned. This has not happened before, and he's like, are you joking? And she's like, yes. Aren't you proud of me?
Yeah.
And that was just pure joy.
That was a
I love
great
that.
moment, yeah. She's like, I can joke. Isn't this funny? Haha.
Yes! But, of course, Ari does take him down into the underthings, and he sees tunnels and pipes for sewage, water, steam, and coal gas. Great black pig iron pipes a man could crawl through, small, bright brass pipes no bigger than your thumb, and a vast network of stone tunnels branching and connecting at odd angles. There was a rhyme and reason to the place, but he couldn't figure it out. And Ori gave him a whirlwind tour, proud as a new mother, excited as a little girl. And he got excited with her. And they made their way down a 3-spiral staircase to the Great 12. Standing at the bottom of a canyon, looking up, he could see faint moonlight from the high grates overhead. And while the mother owl was gone, Ari showed him the nest. And the deeper they went, the stranger things became. Rounded tunnels for drainage and pipes disappeared and replaced with squared-off hallways, and stairways strewn with rubble. Rotting wooden doors hung off rusted hinges, and there were half-collapsed rooms filled with mouldering tables and chairs. Even deeper, they came to the through bottom, which was a room like a cathedral, and so big that neither Ori's blue light nor his red one could reach the highest peaks of the ceiling. And it was here that he found machines, ancient ones, that were worn and rusted with neglect. And as he approached a iron block as big as a farmer's cottage and broke off a single flake of rust larger than a dinner plate, and under there was still just more rust. And he gets only the vaguest ideas of what these machines might have done, and the chapter comes to an abrupt end. Literally in the middle of a sentence.
Yeah. I thought this was great. Like, it made me love Ari as a character even more, and just getting a glimpse of the world she lives in, I thought was really cool. So it got me excited to read that side story. Haven't done it yet, but it is definitely on the list. Here comes that chapter. Yes, this chapter was... All I could describe it as was like, chapter 88 was... What's that movie? Like, is it called Crazy 8? Or the old Western movie where it's like a bunch of bounty hunters and one snowed into a tavern. Can't remember what movie it's called, but you guys might know what I'm talking about. It's very, very, like, skin crawly suspenseful, this chapter, I would say. Don't steal friends' names for the book. Don't steal names from people you know. Steal names from people you know.
Oh, goodness. Just make sure you put a thing at the beginning saying,
Hateful
there's no likeness. These are all fictional characters. Tee-hee.
Yeah, exactly.
The Hateful Eight.
We actually have a town person that way back in the 40s. I can't give you the name of it because it would give away the name of the town, but we had somebody who exposed all of our town's like gossip through a novel, and he's a very well-known author in the 1940s.
That's pretty amusing, actually.
Yeah, it's great. So he had that little disclaimer at the front.
It's not actually real.
But yeah, one of the small things that my town is known for. But getting into this chapter, it's going to be an interlude, right? We snap back to the tavern.
Snap back to reality.
Cobb calls out as he opens the door. Shep, Jake, and Graham follow him inside. Chronicler stares as he noticed there was nothing left of Quoth and the red-haired man behind the bar. He says he was almost invisible. He's now Coat. Coat makes up that Chronicler is there to scrib down Bass Rit while he has the chance, as he is feeling his years from his trip to Baden. Saying that he was around Pox. Bass goes down a few lines of his possessions, who he leaves them to very playfully. I don't know if you want to read those. I thought they were funny. And then the line about an immoral soul. So he would have no need of his worldly possessions. And Chronicler's like, do you mean immortal? And Bass is like, I don't know. Very playful moment. Coat watches dark-eyed as Cobb questions Chronicler. Whenever it comes to matters of the story that's being told, there's always a glare from Coat or Quoth, whatever you want to say in this moment, but he's watching over the two, making sure that they do not leak a word. Chronicler feigns a story about Quoth telling of the bandits that attacked them and insists that it was Severin, and Cobb keeps correcting Chronicler. Can you just shut up? He's like, I know the story, let me tell it. Coat shoots Chronicler a dark look, saying that, as Chronicler says that, he's only heard the story once, and Cobb tells him to stop. Cobb goes on to tell the story and mentions the university gave Quoth gold, a diamond, and a horse with saddle and tack. The gold he gave to some poor folk whose house had burned down during their wedding. The boy asks of the diamond, and Cobb frowns, saying that he gave the diamond to a special lady friend of his. But that's a whole different story. Cobb continues to say that Quoth got to stay at a place called... this is funny, I thought. Amory, which is a poor spelling of Imri, right?
Yep.
A town next by. Quoth had a room at an inn where he got to stay for free because a widow took a shine to him. Jake said that he played music there too, and Cobb continues, irritated, that a man with a knife to Quoth in the middle of the day in Amory Square held him up, and he was about to call the constable when he noticed the man was a sweet eater with white teeth. So these are all parallel stories to what we were just told, right? Which I thought was great.
Yes.
It was amazing. So it shows you how tales get spun from word to word and how things could so easily become so different. Bass asks, what did he do? And Coat looks at Bass and is like, are you really doing this? Cobb continues that he learned in a secret book at the university, speaking 3 terrible secrets to call a demon. It was black of all shadow and landed on the sweet eater's chest over his heart and drank all the blood out of him. Ooh. Silver, I'm gonna have to talk to you about that. They're all stories smashed together pretty much. Yeah, it's very, very short explanations for what actually happened, but told by word of mouth, things change very quickly. Graham interjects that there was a woman trapped in a burning house that Quoth saved by calling upon a demon to protect him from the fire so he could save her. Cough, cough, fella.
Yep.
Jake said, disgusted, that he was at the university learning all manners of names, and he called out fire and lightning, saying that the others sound like children. And Cobb is like, doesn't make a lick of sense unless it was a demon, right? Like, Cobb is getting frustrated. He's like, none of this makes sense unless it was demons, alright? So just listen to me tell it. And Jake is like, you know how folk are. And Cobb is like, oh, tell me, how are folk?
What's going on, boy?
So, the familiar footsteps of more customers coming up, and the story is halted by Cobb. It was a lone mercenary who steps through and looks like they've fallen on rough times. The mercenary had no reply when Coat calls out to the man. Quoth, and this is where it gets a little weird with the wording because it keeps switching back from Coat to Quoth to Coat to Quoth, right?
Mhm.
So, Quoth shot a glance at Bast, who slid off his stool to close the front inn's door. The mercenary made their way between Chronicler and Old Cobb and mumbled something as he leaned heavily on the bar. Quoth says, beg your pardon? And the mercenary repeats, Ethan se... oh god. Chistoy Haven. Something like that, Bay. It's a lot of consonants together, so excuse my pronunciation. Cobb is like, is that Ciaru? And Chronicler took note of the man eyeing his belongings and personal attire. Quoth asks, are you speaking Arturian? And then he asks, what do you want? And Bast is like at the front door doing jumping jacks.
Bob! Danger! Danger! Danger!
The mercenary goes, I want. And his look gazes aimlessly around the room. Chronicler said that he knows this man and that he robbed him 5 days ago, so Chronicler is getting a little blustered up. Bass asks if he is sure, and Chronicler says, he's wearing my goddamn shirt. I am sure. Chronicler says, he wasn't like this though. And at this moment, Bast just lets loose a cry, Reishi! In desperation. And Qua says, just a moment. The man says, I am looking. Cobb demands, what are you looking for? Chronicler said, I imagine he is looking for me to give me back my horse and all of my stuff. And then he moved to grip the man's sword as it is sheathed, and he started drawing it out till it got about to the halfway point, and it got stuck. And as soon as that happened, Bast yells, no! Chronicler tugs harder, and then it's free. The sword is mottled with dry blood and rust. And this happened just 5 days ago, right?
Mhm.
The mercenary's gaze was centered on the point of the sword where it swayed unsteadily in front of his chest by Chronicler. Bast cries out, leave him be, and yells, please, in a shrill voice. The mercenary brushed the sword aside like it was a branch, drawing blood on his hand from the blade, and he still says, I am looking. His glassy eyes come to a sudden focus and smiles at Chronicler, saying another bit of things that I will not attempt to butcher because there are too many syllables in that. Chronicler says that he doesn't follow, and then he asks another question, followed by Amuen. Chronicler says, I can't understand a thing you're saying, and brings the sword back up in between them. The mercenary throws back his head and laughs with a wide smile. The mercenary grips the notched blade so tight that the sound of his bones grinding against the blade could be heard as blood rushed to the floor. So something's up with this guy. He's completely out of it. There's being crazy and then just this, right? This is something completely different.
Mhm.
The mercenary twists the blade as he looks at Chronicler in the face and shatters the sword in his hand. The mercenary steps forward and lays a hand on Chronicler's shoulder. Chronicler shrieks and jerks away, swinging the sword wildly and notching it deep into the mercenary's arm. The broken tip of the sword is still in the mercenary's hand as he takes another step towards Chronicler. In a blink, we have Bast shouldering the mercenary into the bar and grabbing the man's head and dashing it on the edge of the bar twice as chaos erupts. Cobb backs away, tipping over his stool. Jake tries to bolt for the door, falling over the stool. Graham says something about the constable, and the smith's apprentice grabs for his iron rod, knocking it under the table. So all of this in the span of a moment.
Yeah.
Giant shit show. Bast gave a yelp and at that moment was violently thrown across the room as heavy timber table lies under his limp body. The mercenary unconcerned with his injuries as he gets up and turns his face back toward Chronicler. Shep picks up a knife and drives the blade into the shoulder where your neck meets, so like just above the clavicle in that soft spot that you guys have. Shep was dashed across the face with the jagged edge of the sword in that next moment, and with a little more than a twitch, the metal was brought back around into Shep's chest with the broken end of the sword jutting between his ribs. The knife in the mercenary's neck wouldn't budge as the mercenary tried to remove it, and he let out a bird-like laugh. The mercenary then focuses on Quoth again and says more things in another language. Te rinte. Quoth threw a dark bottle across the bar and dipped his finger into the spattered liquid as the bottle crashed against the mercenary. Quoth muttered something and stared intently at the man on the other side of the bar. The mercenary reached across the bar, catching Quoth's sleeve. Bast sees this happen and tackles the man from behind, getting one arm around his neck while raking his face with the other hand. The mercenary lays both hands on Bast's arm, causing Bast major pain. Bast still claws at the man's face wildly. The smith's apprentice gripped his iron rod and held it over, approaching the two, causing Bast to pretty much retreat off of this guy at the sight of the iron. The mercenary held out a hand lazily at the apprentice as the smith's apprentice swatted the arm away and the iron struck him. The mercenary hissed like an angry cat. The boy swung the rod again, striking the mercenary in his ribs, causing him to fall to his hands and knees, screaming like a slaughtered lamb. The apprentice brought the bar down on the man's back, very strong overhead strike, breaking it completely. The mercenary, still trying to crawl towards the inn door, with his mouth open in a howl and blank expression, as the apprentice pretty much goes to town over and over and over again, breaking his leg, his arm, more ribs, and still the mercenary continued sounding more like an animal than a human. Finally, the boy landed a blow to the mercenary's head, and the mercenary kind of slouched over and immediately vomited a deep, wet cough of a foul fluid, thick as pitch and black as ink, pooling on the ground. The boy continued to strike the motionless body in a fury. As he raised it one last time, noticing the body not moving, the boy caught his breath. Cobb was backed against the fireplace praying, and then complete silence. So that's the scene. Yeah, straight out of a horror movie. We get to a cut after that, I'm pretty sure, where it's rumors have been spreading around the town for the past several hours. The Waystone Inn is the center of attention. Small towns, word gets around fast. We learned that from the last chapters. Shep's brothers show up to collect and cart Shep's body away. And they're red-eyed from crying and not very pleased to be there, right?
No.
The constable pieces together story that the man was a deserter and a dinner addict that came into town just in time to go crazy. The smith's apprentice had no doubt done the right thing, but the iron law still demanded that a trial would be set next month to go over the circumstance of the smith's apprentice killing this mercenary. Everyone went about business hours later, trying to talk of anything but the instance that happened, as Bass and Coat made to clean up the remains, while Chronicler made to eat stew. Half an hour passed without anyone even speaking at that point. Everyone drew tense glares as they waited for the boy to leave. They didn't want to talk about it while the boy was still there. When Coat approaches the boy, and when addressing him, he says boy, where he's corrected, "My name is Aaron." The boy said that he thought a demon was in the man when asked by Quoth what had happened. The boy reasoned that Quoth, Bast, and Chronicler must think the same, because he reasons that Quoth and those two have been all over the world. They have seen the horrors of the world. They know what's out there. He also reasoned that is why you grabbed the liquid to set him on fire, because you know that demons are weak to fire. And he's like, but you didn't have a match or a lantern to complete it. And Quoth is kind of like, okay, yeah. When Bass tries to say that sweet eaters are stronger than you think, Quoth chimes in that it was a demon. You're right. The boy reasoned that he didn't say anything because that Quoth didn't say anything, is the he here, because of business, and it wouldn't do any good to tell folk around where Quoth is running a business. And Quoth says, "You're right, it won't do any good. You might end up in the crookery." So,
Mm-hmm.
Quoth admits that there is more to that one than he would have thought when Aaron leaves. And Aaron states that he just wanted to hear that he wasn't crazy before he left. That's the only reason why he stuck around. That said, it's because he's reasoning why people are saying there's more to him here, right? They're like, it's because he's big, and that people are easily confused by the look of things. He's cleverer than folk give him credit for. Always looking at things and asking questions. He makes me nervous. And Quoth is like, "You? Nervous?" Chronicler is shaken with hysteria at this point, saying that what just happened was not natural. And Quoth says it was natural. And asked Bast if he got anything. What was it looking for, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bast says, "The phrasing is very old and archaic, and I couldn't make sense of it." So this is something older than our boy Bast. Chronicler asks, again, like, looking for what? And Quoth goes on to say, "Bast, you must be joking." After he was like, Quoth was like, "Yeah, he's looking for me." And he's like, "I caused the war. I brought the Scrael. It's all my fault." Bast offers that it looked like a Mahale Uret? I don't know how to say that. Mahale Uret?
Me.
Um, Basically a skin dancer is what common people would call them. Bast says, "All snakes bite, Reishi. I don't need their names to know they're dangerous. I recognized it as being from the Mael. That was enough." Quoth says that skin dancers had been gone for ages and ages, as last told by Bast, so he's a little confused. Chronicler inspects his wounds where it touched him, and it felt like something was tearing him up inside, was the only way he could describe it. But now it just feels like strange and numb. Chronicler continues until he is jolted with pain from Bast inspecting the wound, and Quoth replies, "That's the brachial nerve plexus. Bast said he needed to know how far the damage went, and they found out." Bast makes a list of things for a salve, and Quoth goes to get it. This is a little moment between Chronicler and Bast. Rival enemies, frenemies. Bast hisses at Chronicler not to talk about sympathy that Quoth tried to, as he presses into Chronicler's collarbone, making a very real threat here. Quoth asks if he is going to be okay when he hears Chronicler yelp, and Bast says it's about as serious as frostburn. Quoth and Bast go to making the salve and applying the bandage. Quoth asks if he was up for riding, and says they are days away from a true ending, so he could tie up loose ends. Chronicler's, "I'm good for hours yet." Quoth goes on to say that he found what he wanted most, yet it was not what he expected, as is often the case when you gain your heart's desire. And that is how the chapter ends. So, Hateful Eight, crazy moment.
Oh, on the next side of the spectrum, we go right back in time to the university for another one-page chapter that is just kind of flippant, I'll put it, where he goes to the courtyard that was also called the House of the Wind, and that's where he's whipped. As predicted, there's an impressive crowd for the event. Hundreds of students crowd the courtyard to overflowing, and they're peering out of windows and doorways, and some even manage to make it to the rooftops. And of course he was lashed 6 times across the back, and not wanting to disappoint, and giving them something to talk about, he gave a repeat performance of the first time. He did not bleed, he did not cry or faint. He left the courtyard walking on his own 2 feet and his head held high. Mola gives him 57 stitches, and he found a consolation in a journey to Imre where he spent Ambrose's money on an extraordinarily fine loot, 2 sets of used clothing, a small bottle of my own blood, and the warm new dress for Ori. And all in all, it was a very pleasant afternoon. You know, just wake up, get whipped, go handle your stuff.
I thought that was nice that he even thought of Ori there.
He always does. He's been, like, getting her dresses and everything else. It's just that she won't wear someone else's clothes.
No hand-me-downs. No thrifting for her. So,
Yep.
I wanna make sure I give you the right chapters here.
This is the last one before it goes into the chapters that I claim.
Okay, perfect. So chapter 90 is mine.
And 91, but that's like a 2.5-page chapter.
You want me to take that one too?
It goes right into the epilogue after that, and I figured I'd actually read most of the last chapter and the epilogue.
Perfect. I'll read 90 and 91 then. I'm sorry for that long explanation, guys, but like that last chapter, there was too much action in there to like discount, and I thought it was particular pertinent that how Bast was acting in that instance. So just keep that in mind. That's the only afterword I have about that last chapter that I read. So we get into Quoth exploring the Underthing at this point, where he realized that each part of it was named appropriately by Ari in her own way. The Downings, the Vaults, the Woods, the Delving, the Cricklet, Tenors, Candlebear, and the Bellows. Quoth came to one passage and came to an ancient moldering door. Damp wood crumbled to pieces when he tried to open it, and the ceiling of the passage was only about 3 feet high. Quoth had to know and asked Ari to wait for him, as he doesn't know if he could find his way back. She said she won't go because it would skim her knees. Quoth continues on his belly crawling through this passage. He has a very good quote here. If you have never been deep underground, I doubt you can understand what it is like. The darkness is absolute, almost tangible. It lurks outside the light, waiting to rush in a sudden flood. The air is still and stale. There's no noise except that you make yourself. Your breathing becomes loud in your own ears. Your heart thumps. And all the while, there is overwhelming knowledge that thousands of tons of earth and stone are pressing down above you. I thought that was a perfect explanation of claustrophobia.
Yeah, it is.
The space grew smaller until it pinned down one of his arms. Quoth began to panic and struggle as he continued, terrified until he got one of his arms free and pressed ahead trembling in the dark until he found what he had been looking for. ... What did he want most?
Access to the archives.
You got it. After emerging, he went through a window and locked door to the women's wing of the Muse and knocked on Fella's door. Fella answered, naked, save for a sheet covering her. And Quoth is like, I like this. Yet again.
I like this. This is nice. This is very nice.
She sees it's Quoth, and Quoth asks Fella to meet a friend of his at the archives tomorrow evening at 5th Bell by the 4-plate door. He's calling his favor that he had asked for from Fella, right? Quoth
yes.
Yes. Stares respectfully. So
he calls in the favor, but she literally takes a half step back, opens the door wider, and is like, "Do you want to come in?"
Yeah. I was gonna get to that.
And he was like, "Nah, I can't. Sorry."
And he didn't even notice that she invited him in until he was halfway towards his, like, on the way back, right?
Yep.
He had no idea that he had just blown over this proposal, and it's also mentioned, like, how beautiful her silhouette is on profile. Ooh, sorry about that. yeah, so the next day, at the time that was designated by Quoth, Fella waited at the location as a hooded figure steps out of the dark. And Fella's like, "Hi, I'm here to meet you. Quoth instructed me," and she stops, and it's Quoth. Quoth states that he is trespassing when asked what he's doing there. Quoth entered through the billows and explains it's better if Fella doesn't know, seeing as the university cannot expel you at the most for willful collusion. So it's best if you don't know. Quoth smelled old leather and dust in the wind that led him to the doorway, directly to the lowest levels of the stacks. It was there so Scrivs would have easy access to the ventilation system. Bella mentions that the Scrivs check the reading holes to see if anyone is sleeping or having sex, and she sticks her tongue out when she says it. So there are some heavy hints being dropped here, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She's dropping hints with a sledgehammer at this point.
Yes, beating him in the face. So, Quoth voices his frustration about how he can't find anything. He's been looking around for hours. He can't find anything on the Emir, the Chandrian, or how the system of organization even works, and it's maddening. And Fella asks, how would you organize it, before educating him on what is actually going on with the organizational structure. I thought this was pretty cool to learn about at this part, at least, because it let me understand a few things as well about the archives. Fella educates Quoth on the intricacy of organizing the books using a memoir travelogue from hundreds of years ago as an example. And the travelogue is from a place that doesn't even exist anymore. So Quoth is like, I could see the conundrum here with even finding the appropriate tag for the book. Fella illuminates Quoth on it takes more than a lifetime to organize everything. There are 3/4 of a million volumes there, and that's not considering the scrolls or the fragments. She says that new masters don't usually change the system, but sooner or later you get someone who is sure they have a better way of doing things, and they start from scratch all over again. Bella says at least 9 different systems have passed in 300 years. The worst was about 50 years ago, when there were 4 new master archivists within 5 years, and the result was that the Scrivs were split into 3 factions who believed their cataloging system was the best. So even the Scrivs were counteracting each other. There was a silent war where they would hide books from each other or confuse their order on the shelves, taking books that were already cataloged in other systems. Librarian wars. The war went on for about 15 years, and Fella goes on to say things are still a mess. They lost almost 200,000 books when Tollum burned Larkin Ledger books. Larkin was another faction. Then 5 years later, Tollum died, and a new archivist went and took over, starting from scratch. And she goes on to say it's an endless chain of half-built houses. Quoth goes to follow her up the stairs, appreciating the new perspective. This is a double meaning here. Appreciating the new perspective on the illumination of the knowledge, and then following Fella up the stairs, that perspective. At least in my mind it was a double meaning. What'd you think? What'd you think?
Honestly, the fact that he is not trying to be with Fella, literally from the first reading to this reading, has always boggled my mind.
I find Fella to be extremely likable. She's clever, good looking, like she's a Relar, right?
She's a Relar. She's incredibly intelligent, and she is completely simping for him.
Yeah. We got a shrimp.
Okay.
Code 5 shrimp.
It is a code 5 shrimp.
So, chapter 91 then begins. Fall term is spent mostly with Fella, so bonding. We got some bonding.
Funding.
Teaching him the system whenever Quoth is skulking about. So I would go to venture that they kind of timed up when Fella was working as a scrib, right?
Mm-hmm.
Eldon spent time teaching, and Quoth wondered if there was any progress to be made at all with what he was being with what he was being taught. Quoth spent little time he had left over finding Denna every 1 trips out of 3 with a new patron over at Imri. Quoth mentions that it was a game that would be played between whatever 3 of them were there, and how the other clung to her with desperate determination, saying some resented him, some saw him as a rival, and others were frightened with the knowledge buried deep behind their eyes from the beginning. They knew she was leaving, and they didn't know why, so they clutched at her like shipwrecked sailors, clinging to the rocks despite the fact that they were being battered to death against them. I almost felt sorry for them. Almost. And then there is some poetic mentioning about Denna being a light, and what he is to Denna. He's her light, and what these men will never have that he offers. I think that's the best way I could paraphrase it.
Yes.
He talks of Denna's tears, how he's seen her cry twice over these men, and he was basically just a good support system whenever this happened. He never wanted to know too much information he didn't need to know, and but he did wonder, what did she lose in these exchanges where she was crying, right? I forget the exact wording on it, but occasionally would talk of Denna with Will and Sim, where Will and Sim would both urge Quoth to make romantic gestures, and Quoth says she doesn't want that. And he's like, I will not be like those thousands of men. Sim calls her cruel, and Quoth agrees. You're right. That's a good word for her. Sim talks of how hurt Savoy was when she left him, and Quoth offers Denna is a wild thing like a hind or summer storm. If a storm blows down your house or breaks a tree, you don't say that the storm was mean. It was cruel. It acted according to its nature, and something, unfortunately, was hurt. This is true of Denna as well. Quoth changes the topic after comparing Denna to a wild deer, and talks of the questioning hall. Quoth tore off the note that Denna had left him, her signature on the note, and watches as it spins wildly amongst the autumn leaves, dancing in the questioning hall. It dances among the cobblestones, spinning, and the pattern was too wild and varied for him to understand. Quoth waited until the sky grew dark, and when he left, he was still left wondering, in the House of the Wind, where it would end up. It gave him no answers. Lastly, there was Ambrose. There was pins and needles waiting for the day of Ambrose's revenge. He had just, in this instance, bided his time. He says, I was wrong, of course. Perfectly and completely wrong. Ambrose had merely learned to bide his time. He did not manage to get his revenge, and when it came, he did manage. I was caught flat-footed and forced to leave the university. But that, as they say, is a story for another day.
Yes.
All of this when Quoth was 16 or younger, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So now I'm gonna take over because
You're so excited.
I love it when Bast. I am literally just going to be reading part of this because it's so good.
It's so readable. Like, go for it.
But we have hydrate regimes real quick.
I'm I'm already hydrated.
Hydration. So, we're back at the Waystone Inn,
Zippies.
and Cabal says that should do for now, and Chronicler lays down his pen. And he says that tomorrow we'll have some of my favorite stories. My journey to Averland's court, learning to fight with the Adem, Ferlurian. He picks up a clean linen cloth and turns to the chronicler, and asks if there's anything that he needs for the night. The chronicler says no, and he also sends Bath to bed. The fourth then goes about his nightly ritual, and he shovels out the ashes from the huge stone fireplace, brings in wood for tomorrow, extinguishes the lamps beside the sign, only to find he'd forgotten to light them earlier in the evening. He locks the inn, and after a moment's consideration, left the key in the door so Chronicler could let himself out if he woke early in the morning. Then he swept the floor, washed the tables, and rubbed down the bar, moving in a methodical efficiency, and then polished the bottles. And his eyes far away, just remembering things, though he did not hum or whistle, and he did not sing. And then we go up to Chronicler's room, where he is moving about restlessly, tired, but still too full of energy to actually sleep. He's removed the thinnest pages from his satchel and stowed them safely in a heavy wooden chest of drawers. Then he carefully removes the bandage on his shoulder and threw the foul-smelling thing in the chamber pot and replaced the lid before washing his shoulder and popping down to bed. There's no light or movement, and he opens the window and lets in the air, and he draws the curtains and he undresses for bed, laying his clothes out on the back of a chair. And when he's turning down the bed, he's shocked to see that the sheets have been changed sometime during the day, and that the linens were crisp and smelled pleasantly of lavender. And on a hesitation, he actually locks the door to his room and lays the key on the nightstand, and then he picks up the stylized iron wheel and puts it around his neck, probably to try and keep Bast out before snuffing out the lamp and getting back into bed. And for the better part of an hour, Chronicler lay sleepless in his sweet-smelling bed, just restless and not good. But after a minute, a weighted piece of furniture was pressed against the door of his room. He places a heavy piece of furniture against the door, and he climbs back into bed
Oh, this was comical.
and tries to go into sleep.
Yeah.
And when the room was pitch black, he awoke to something soft pressed against his face, and he thrashed wildly, more on a reflex. And he's startled because it's Bast. Despite the fact that the door is locked, despite the fact there's heavy furniture in front of the door, Bast is there. And Bast just goes, "We need to talk. I'm going to light the lamp, and you're not going to make any loud noises, alright?" Chronicler just gives the nod against his hand, like, "Yeah, dude, whatever, I'm terrified right now, let's go." And Bast looks at him once the candle is lit and says, "It shows a certain amount of trust." And it's just like, "Ugh, you better not have scratched up the floors, he's gonna be pissed." And Chronicler starts raising his voice. He's like, "Would you be quiet? Are you kidding me? He has the ears of a hawk. Are you insane?"
Another comedy part.
Yes. And Chronicler's just like, "But why are you here?" And he's like, "We need to talk about why you're here." Chronicler's like, "Well, it's what I do. I investigate stories and see if there's any truth behind them." Bast asks what rumor started this. And apparently he says that Bast got sloppy drunk and talked to a wagoneer. Bast just kind of gives him a look like, "Please, are you kidding me? You know what I am. Do you honestly think I would get sloppy drunk with a wagoneer?" No. I sent him. He was my message in a bottle. And we get a hint that Bast has a plan. And Chronicle's like, "Well, you two are very tucked away." And he's like, "Yes, very tucked away, very hidden." But Bast goes on to say that he's here because Chronicler's perfect for this. He's going to write down the stories exactly as Kaboth wants. when they first came to this town and opened the Waystone Inn, coat was a mask. It was something he put on when people were there and took off at the end of the day, and he was Kavoth again. That at one point in his life he was Kavoth, and people said that he was a hero, so he was a hero. But here, he's an innkeeper, a failed innkeeper at that, and now he is that innkeeper, and he's not Kavoth. So Bast is hoping that Chronicler can reignite the man that was inside, and try to steer the conversations away from things that may make him dwell in the anxiety of the past, and focus on his heroics, things that brought him joy. And of course Chronicler's like, no, you're absolutely, no, that goes against what I'm doing. And every story has its problems, and every story is going to have heartbreak and sadness. And Bast says that, well, you know what? He was really excited a while back because he was going to write his own memoirs. He talked about it non-stop for days. He sat down one night, he wrote a big chunk of it, and decided he hated it and never touched it again, and it's been on his desk since. So, that's where you come in. And Chronicler says, and I'm going to just start reading, but I'm collecting the story of his life. The real story. Chronicler made a helpless gesture. Without the dark parts, it's just some silly Chronicler froze halfway through the word, eyes darting nervously to the side. Bast grinned like a child catching a priest mid-curse. Go on, he urged, his eyes delighted and hard and terrible. Say it. Like some silly fairy story. Chronicler finished, his voice thin and pale as paper. And Bast got a wide smile. You know nothing of the Fae if you think our stories lack their darker sides. But all that aside, this is a fairy story, because you're gathering it from me. Chronicler swallowed hard and seemed to regain some of his composure. What I mean is that he is telling the true story, and true stories have unpleasant parts. He's more than most, I expect. They're messy and tangled and... I know you can't get him to leave them out, but you can hurry him along. You can help him dwell on the good things, his adventures, the women, the fighting, his travels, his music... Bast stops abruptly. Well, not the music. Don't ask about that. Or why he doesn't do magic anymore. Chronicler frowned. Why not? His music seems... Bast's expression was grim. Just don't, he said firmly. They're not productive subjects. I stopped you earlier. He tapped at the Chronicler's shoulder meaningfully. Because you are going to ask him about what went wrong with his sympathy. You didn't know any better. Now you do. Focus on the heroics, his cleverness. He waved his hands. That sort of thing. It's really not my place to be steering him in one way or another, Chronicler said stiffly. I'm a recorder. I'm just here for the story. And stories are an important thing, after all. Piss on your stories, Bast said sharply. You'll do what I say, or I'll break you like a kindling stick. Chronicler froze. So you're saying I work for you? I'm saying you belong to me. Bast's face was deadly serious. Down to the marrow of your bones, I drew you here to serve my purpose. You have eaten at my table, and I have saved your life. He pointed at Chronicler's naked chest. 3 ways I own you. That makes you wholly mine, and an instrument of my desire, and you will do as I say. Chronicler's chin lifted a bit, his expression hardening. I will do as I see fit, he said, slowly rising a hand to the piece of metal that lay against his naked chest. Bast's eyes flickered down, then up again. You think I'm playing some game? His expression was incredulous. You think iron will keep you safe? Bast leaned forward, slapped Chronicler's hand away, and grabbed the circle of dark metal before the scribe could move. Immediately, Bast's arms stiffened and his eyes clenched shut in a grimace of pain. When he reopened them, they were solid blue, the color of deep water or a darkening sky. Bast leaned forward, bringing his face close to the chronicler's. The scribe panicked and tried to scrabble away sideways off the bed, but Bast took hold of his shoulder and held him fast. Hear my words, Manly. Do not mistake me for my mask. You see the light dappling on the water and forget the deep, cold dark beneath. The tendons in Bast's hand creak as he tightened his grip on the circle of iron. Listen, you cannot hurt me. You cannot run or hide. In this, I will not be defied. As he spoke, Bast's eyes grew paler until they were pure blue of a clear noontime sky. I swear by all the salt in me, if you run counter to my desire, the remainder of your brief mortal span will be an orchestra of misery. I swear by stone and oak and elm, I will make a game of you. I will follow you unseen and smolder any spark of joy you find. You will never know a woman's touch, a breath of rest, or a moment's peace of mind. Bast's eyes were now pale blue-white of lightning, his voice tight and fierce. And I swear by the night sky and the ever-moving moon, if you lead my master to despair, I will slit you open and splash around like a child in a muddy puddle. I will string a fiddle with your guts and make you play it while I dance. Bast leaned closer until their faces were mere inches apart, his eyes gone white as opal, white as a full-bellied moon. You're an educated man. You know there are no such things as demons. Bast smiled a terrible smile. There is only my kind. Bast leaned closer still. Chronicler smelled flowers on his breath. You are not wise enough to fear me as I should be feared. You do not know the first note of music that moves me. Bast pushed himself away from Chronicler and took several steps back from the bed. Standing at the edge of the candle's flickering light, he opened his hand and the circle of iron fell to the wooden floor, ringing dully. And after a moment, Bast drew a deep breath. He raised his hand, he ran his hand through his hair. Chronicler remained where he was, pale and sweating. Listen, there's no reason we can't be friends, he said matter-of-factly, as he turned and held the necklace out to Chronicler. His eyes were human blue again, his smile warm and charming. There's no reason we can't all get what we want. You get your story. He gets to tell it. You get to know the truth. He gets to remember who he really is. Everyone wins, and we all go our separate ways, pleased as peaches. When Chronicler asks what he wants, what does he get out of this? And what do I want? I just want my Reshi back. I want him back to the way he was. So, can I bring you anything before you go to sleep? A nightcap? More blankets? What can I do for you? And Chronicler just shakes his head numbly, and Bast waved as he steps the rest of the way out the window and closes it behind him.
Wow.
I love Bast.
Wow.
This is fate!
So, I have to ask you, do you believe what the things Bast is saying is true, or do you think they're...
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Abso-freaking-lutely.
Okay. I was just wondering because, like, here you could kind of incriminate Bast if you're looking into the story.
I love Bast. I love Bast. We all know this.
He is fair.
But would it be alright if I just read the epilogue? Because I think, honestly,
Yeah,
this is
you can do
possibly
it.
one of the best epilogues that I have ever read.
It is.
Okay. Epilogue. A silence in 3 parts. It was night again. The Waystone Inn lay in silence, and the silence of 3 parts. The first part was a hollow, echoing quiet, made by things that were lacking. If there were horses stabled in the barn, they would have stamped and champed and broken it to pieces. If there had been a crowd of guests, even a handful of guests bedded down for the night, their restless breathing and mingled snores would have gently thawed the silence like a warm spring wind. if there had been music. But no, of course there was no music. In fact, there was none of these things, and so the silence remained. Inside the Waystone, a man huddled in his deep, sweet-smelling bed, motionless, waiting for sleep. He laid wide-eyed in the dark. In doing this, he added the small, frightened silence to the larger, hollow one. They made an alloy of sorts, in harmony. The third silence was not an easy thing to notice. If you listened for an hour, you might begin to feel it in the thick stone walls of the empty tap room, and in the flat grey metal of the sword that hung behind the bar. It was in the dim candlelight that filled the upstairs room with dancing shadows. It was in the mad pattern of the crumbled memoir that lay fallen and unforgotten atop the desk. It was in the hand of the man who sat there, pointedly ignoring the pages he had written and discarded long ago. The man had true red hair, red as flame. His eyes were dark and distant, and he moved with the weary calm that comes from knowing many things. The Waystone was his, just as the third silence was his. This was appropriate, as it was the greatest silence of the three, wrapping the others inside itself. It was deep and wide as autumn's ending. It was heavy as a great river smooth stone. It was a patient, cut flower. Sound of a man who was waiting to die.
I don't know about you, but like that was fuel for the fire to read book 2.
It was. That last line of just a man waiting to die was just like
There, like, my gosh, in these last chapters and the epilogue, I had written down so many quotes that were just like dead poetic. There's one that we skipped over about like beauty and how you make a girl realize she's beautiful. That Bast was describing. I thought you would have covered that one. And Bast is actually, like, we got so many dimensions to the layers of his character here in these last chapters. And it kind of leaves you wondering, like, what are Bast's real motives?
Yes, he goes into a talk about how do you tell a woman that she is beautiful? If you tell her she is beautiful, she'll say that you are lying. So you show her that she is beautiful, and she becomes beautiful seen.
Mm-hmm.
And this was also in relation to him trying to describe how Kavoth could be the hero if people said he was the hero, or he would be the innkeeper if people said he was the innkeeper.
Yeah, that line in that part of it, it's the one that I liked was like, you make mirrors of your eyes, prayers of your hands against her body. It is hard, very hard, but when she truly believes you, suddenly the story she tells in herself, in her own head changes. She transforms. She is seen as beautiful. She isn't seen as beautiful. She is beautiful seen. Like,
It's a beautiful part. Like,
oh.
Bast, I was like,
I was
slow
like,
clap.
what are you doing, Bast?
Bast, my man!
And then
Marry me!
he just snaps into this threatening presence, and then saying that the demons are Fae. I'm just like, what is going on? Help!
I don't know, but I simp so hard. Level 5.
Yes, I think it's rightfully so, right? Like, there's this creeping kind of like admiration that you get for Bast through all of the chapters, even though he's in them so little. You just can't help but like him, even if he's not your favorite character like me. It's just like, wow, I really, really adore this character, and the dynamic that he has with Chronicler is so endearing. Like, it's almost like two siblings fighting. Until this part.
I try to think of him as like the buddy cops that like, hey, you're the new person on the block and you're my new partner. Bitch, I own you. What?
Yes. They're a dynamic duo, and I was like stunned reading this again and in awe of the pure beauty and poetry that this was written with. Like the epilogue especially, like you said, it's a masterpiece.
Like, rarely is an epilogue actually something you want to read. Like, I'm sorry? Like, epilogues are not why you come to the book. And then to just end it with a mic drop, and you're like, oh, book two, now!
Hear Bass and think of Egyptian goddess of cats, Ra's right hand. Yeah, exactly. But this character, Bast, we love. Period. This is literally like, this is why I'm gonna be dying for 2 weeks, even though I'm pursuing my own passions. I'm like, I just want to read book 2 now. Like, come on. It is the same spelling. And I wanted to share with you guys before we get to talking about everything overall. There is an afterword that is included in the 10th anniversary edition, and I wanted to read it for y'all. And we can decide on the author's note because it is a little bit more lengthy. It's about a 10-minute read vocally. I did it beforehand, so we'll see what you guys think. But I'm going to go ahead and take care of the afterword, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
There are a few people who read The Name of the Wind, sink in this story, and when they finish reading, return it to the shelf happily and move on. Then there are the rest of us. Those of us who pounce on clues about Qua's mother's family's background and obsess over the location of Kaliptina, destroyed centuries before the book even starts. Those of us who look at very peculiar list of all the sciences that Abinthy knows and wonder, who have multiple conflicting theories about Denna and how Alar really works. Those of us who follow the moon. I was once God damn it. I was once in an exhibition of Japanese prints in Portland, Oregon, and there was a delightful 19th century painting of a man with a stringed instrument. And behind him, the moon, visible through the netted branches of a tree. Of course it wasn't Quoth. Of course, it had nothing whatsoever to do with the world of the Four Corners, and would be ridiculous to think that it did. I couldn't tear myself away from it. It's a strange experience to fall in love with a book. It's happened to me a number of times in my life, and happily it's been an additive process and not one of divorce and renunciation. It's quite different from liking a book or enjoying it, or sometimes even from thinking that it's good. There are many books I admire objectively and haven't grabbed onto me in a particular way. I adore Ursula Le Guin's The Dispossessed, but I don't come up with new theories about what's going on. Tots, I can't stand you. Not yet. Silver, thank you for the sub to Tots. The book and my reading experience is complete in itself. Then there are other books and my reading books like C.J. Cherry's Sateen, where I become obsessive. If you come up to me and say, "Have you thought about the cheese in Sateen?" I would have to reply, "Why, yes. Actually, I have thought about it a whole lot." The Name of the Wind didn't actually do that to me on its own. It was the wise man's fear, and I know why. It wasn't until then that I could see the whole shape of what Rothfuss is doing in this series and how perfectly in control of his material he is. With both books in front of me, I could see that he wasn't just spinning out charming yarn, but every word in the series was significant, and a final shape of the garment could be glimpsed. At that point, I was absolutely hooked. I wrote 2 reviews on Tor.com. The first had no spoilers, the second naturally did. Then, because of things people pointed out in the comments, I wrote a third post, and maybe it wasn't a review at all. Maybe it was just a long post about the illuminating connections people had noticed with speculations and potentials, and pointing out on how the way things join up. I may have also raved just about how great the whole series is. It doesn't matter if you don't notice these sorts of things in The Name of the Wind. Is a book where the reading experience feels like settling back and listening to a story told naturally with digressions. But where in fact Rothfuss is playing sophisticated narrative tricks, you can relax and in the delights of sheer storytelling and enjoy the book without. It's good that way, but it also has depths of layering and complexity. They're there if you want them. And if you do find yourself driven to follow the moon, well, the journey is rewarding. And you may end up somewhere you didn't expect at all. There isn't a wasted word. One of the most interesting and unusual things about the King Killer Chronicle for me, the thing that fascinated me even before I fell in love with it, is the potential for the series being the rarest thing in fantasy, true tragedy. The first-person, intimate story of Koth is related to us in very specific context of time and place carefully positioned. The very existence of a frame inevitably says something about the picture that isn't in it. Because we began after the end with the cut flower sound of a man who is waiting to die, it makes the beginning, the boast of the wonderfully precocious young Koth, easier to swallow. The frame story gives you a man who failed, while the story he is telling is about a boy who is too good at everything. Rothfuss is setting us up for something special there. And the contrast between the two sends light and shadow in both directions. We're reading not the story of a victory, but of inevitable loss and defeat. If you haven't read The Name of the Wind before, I envy you. The joy of discovering everything for the first time. If you're coming to this 10th anniversary edition like me to reread, to visit old friends and enemies, to walk on the old stone road, and think about how everything will fit together, welcome back. What'd you think? That was by Joe Walton. I thought that was a very, very good afterword.
Yes.
How are we looking on time, Minnie? 2:39.
It's getting a little late.
Yeah, it is. Maybe we could do a discussion sometime when we're both free and just talk about everything that blew our minds.
Oh, obviously.
And I could read the author's notes to you guys another time because it is a little time consuming. But what the hell? Whose mind is blown?
Ah!
And who feels the hype? After ending that, I felt so inspired that I'm going to work on my own work in the next few weeks here while we take a break. So, I actually really, really enjoyed coming back to this. It reignited my passion for writing, and it got me, especially after reading it again, gave me ideas for my own plots. And I can't be more thankful to do this with you, Manser. You were a great co-host, and you made this whole experience so much easier than I thought it was going to be.
I'm glad. I'm glad.
Very natural.
No,
But yes, chat, nut for book 2. We nut for book 2. It is already out, so we don't have to wait for it. I'm going to be posting the videos of each of these sessions on YouTube, so if you all want to catch up in that 2 weeks time frame, you can. And each episode will be numbered, so you know what chapters and where we ended for each. So feel free to pick it up if you haven't read it, and join us for book 2. Otherwise, Manser, any announcements for you?
Nope, none right now. I mean, I'm doing an art stream tomorrow, but that's about it.
You heard it. Art stream. Everybody, get there. I wonder, can I do that?
Well,
Yeah, I can. Bass power. Be there or be square. I could threaten you like Bass, but I won't do that.
it's okay. I don't need that.
The only other announcements I have is... Chat, you were crazy today. What the hell? Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming, and thank you all for supporting me in my dreams. Thank you so fucking much. You guys almost broke me today. I was very close. But I had enough emotional damage with what I read today, so I feel like I primed myself a little bit for y'all. Otherwise, D&D Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Be there or be square. We pick up our campaign where we left off. It's a VTuber campaign and a lot of familiar friends that you guys know from my channel previously. Silver, you could actually DM me if you want to talk about writing, but I'll let you know I am a free flow writer. I just go by the seat of my pants. Otherwise, let's get you guys to somebody to raid, and thank you all for being here. You're amazing. Amazing.
Do it. I have the coffin dance theme stuck in my head now, but you know what?
It's so good.
I'm living for it.
Go ahead and play it.
Fine.
Yes. Yes. We're gonna raid Seppi. Seppi the Seal. Good friend.
Hi, Seppi.
Yeah. So give her the love that you guys gave me today. You guys are amazing, and yeah, we'll catch you when we pick up book 2. Ooh,
Yay!
spooky. And we'll have more props for you next time around.
Yeah.
And as always, everybody, let's build a better tomorrow together, one day at a time, one step at a time. Thank you all very much. We're ending now.
Ending.